Hello. Today I'm here to talk to you about shoes. Well, two shoes. Why? Well, it all comes in light of developments in the press over the weekend. You may have heard about Peter Cruddas, former Conservative Party fundraiser who has been forced to resign following scandalous revelations about the Prime Minister and access to him. Supposedly, for the paltry sum of £250,000, you can gain Premier League access to David Cameron. You can have dinner with him and discuss anything you want. You can even potentially have your policy suggestions fed to the Conservative Policy Planning Committee. Why does this matter, especially to an archaeologist? Well, it matters in the light, or in the context, of the upcoming Planning Policy Review, which is due to be published by this government. Now, in this country, since around about 1990, we have had a planning policy guidance, some laws which stand between archaeology, our physical heritage, and developers, people who sometimes have a different perspective or a different set of goals and agendas. Now, this really came about because of the infamous test case when the famous Rose Theatre in London was uncovered, fairly well preserved, and it resulted in actors such as Ian McKellen sitting in front of bulldozers trying to stop developers from destroying the site. Following cases like that, the government decided to put in place law which would protect archaeological sites and make it technically a little bit more difficult for developers simply to destroy them. Now, under the last government, the previous Labour government, a review of this planning policy was announced, and it has come to the coalition that we have now to finish that process and publish its findings. However, when one looks at the key donations given to the Conservative Party since May 2010, the two largest donations have come from, yes, you guessed it, people in construction and development. This surely throws into, at best, questionable light the findings of the new planning policy guidance. At worst, it hints that the whole situation is entirely corrupt. Now, the reason why I mention two shoes is that these are replicas of Viking Age, early medieval shoes. Now, I happen to know of two cases in the past 6 years, so while we've had a decent, fairly solid planning policy guidance structure, where shoes like this have been under extreme danger, or indeed have been destroyed. One was in the city of Durham, where a developer was building on the riverside. Now, Durham is the city centre is a little spit of land, a fairly rocky promontory sticking out and surrounded by a river. This means that, even though it's an ancient city, building space is at a premium, and therefore often remains simply don't survive because there's just nowhere else to build. However, one summer, developers were underway building a new block of flats, and the watching brief, the archaeologist who was there just to observe the process, saw a shoe sticking out of the ground. This was remarkable, very rare find, and he went off to get permission to shut down that section of the site, maybe for a day or two, just to remove at least the shoe from the context. In the 20 minutes that he was away, the site foreman took the context and the shoe, put it through a grinder or a graveller of some sorts, and lined the car park with the shoe and all of its accompanying bits and bobs. Now, that's happened fairly recently with planning policy guidance, so that's a shoe gone, doesn't exist anymore. Another shoe that I know about actually was in the city of York, when a fairly major shop on Parliament Street, for those of you who know the area, was putting in a new escalator. The builders had to dig down to put in the gubbins that would go underneath the car itself, and they came across bits and bobs there, one of those things being a shoe. This wasn't announced, and an archaeologist friend of mine was on his way to work and saw this shoe sticking out of a skip. He rushed off, got some appropriate containing material, as it were, a box or two, and rescued the shoe. But the context itself was irrevocably destroyed, and clearly was not going to be reported. So this shoe was rescued, but its context was lost. Now, this is with an excellent, well, this is with a fairly good, rigorous planning policy guidance in place. One can only imagine the result of a planning policy review which has been essentially tainted by the money which has come from developers. It's simply this association has irrevocably tainted the review and the planning policy process. So here at Archaeosoup Towers, we are getting behind Mortimer and its call for the halt to the review process and a new review to be launched into how this planning policy document has in fact been written. How much influence have these people who have donated to the Conservative Party had over the contents of the planning policy review? Now, if you feel strongly about this, pop over to Mortimer's website. Also, I've written a bit of a summary of the issues in the Archaeosoup blog. All relevant links will be in the underbar below. But I suppose what I would say, even if you're not British, this still affects archaeology. So if you know someone who's a Brit who, essentially, if you have a vote in this country, then let them know about this issue. If you aren't British, if you don't have a vote in Britain, then please still make a noise about it, because essentially our history may well be for sale. Now, this obviously, some people may say, oh, it's just a shoe, but the shoe represents archaeology which is rare and vulnerable. Much less visible as well than a stone wall. It's much harder to destroy a stone wall than it is to destroy a shoe. So who knows how many more such things are being destroyed, looted or sold on by developing companies. And this will only be made easier if this upcoming review has essentially been tainted and paid for, or aspects of it have been suggested by those who have very much a vested interest in an outcome which is biased. So, as I say, if you feel strongly about these things, check out the link below, join Mortimer's Facebook page and get involved with the debate, get involved with just making sure that people know that this issue matters. There we go. So until next time, guys, bye-bye.